thrilled to be joined today with Julie Kratz. Thanks for coming on the show today, Julie.
Oh my gosh. Well, we've known each other for years as allies and accomplices, and so it's exciting to be live with you today.
Yes, absolutely. So, a little bit about Julie's background. She's dedicated her career to allyship and inclusion. After spending 12 years in corporate America, experiencing many career pivot points due to her own lack of belonging, she started her own speaking business with the goal of helping leaders be better allies. Promoting allyship in the workplace, Julie helps organizations foster more inclusive environments so that everyone can feel seen, heard, and that they belong. She's a professor at the Indiana University Kelley School of Business, hosts a regular Forbes column on allyship, is a frequent keynote speaker, podcast host, and TEDx speaker. She's also the creator of Lead Like an Ally training program and the founder of the annual International Allyship Day program in NYC. She holds her MBA, is a certified master coach, and is a certified unconscious bias and psychological safety trainer. Julie is the author of seven books, including the book that we're going to talk a lot about today, We Want You, an Allyship Guide for People with Power. Julie, thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you. Thank you for bearing through all those details.
It's good. It's good stuff for people to know. And, when I started my work in this space, especially with allyship, I was doing my competitive research and seeing what else was out there. And there was very little. It was like me, you, and I think Devin Halliday talking
Yeah.
about his as a white male, his
Maybe
allyship.
Brad and Dave and Jennifer Brown, but not a
Mhm.
lot of
Yeah.
others. Yeah, you're right.
Not a lot of people talking about allyship. So I was just so honored whenever I reached out and you got back. And, as you said, we've been advocates and allies to one another since then. So I'm just very grateful to have you in my allyship circle. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your journey. I'm curious, like in your bio, when you mentioned those pivot points, how did you end up in the allyship world as you are today?
Yeah. It's kind of funny. Like you said, this wasn't something that was actively discussed. When I was in corporate America, or certainly 10 years ago, when I started researching, for lack of a better word back then, it was about inclusion and gender equity. And then I quickly realized, whoa, there's way more to this conversation. And so I did a bunch of research and I did some introspection on my own career journey. And it's like, how do you get through those pivot points? Like, how do you make those career transitions, whether it's a promotion, a relocation, a challenging assignment, a pivot to another organization? It was always with allies. Like, we're never doing things by ourselves as much as we'd like to think, myth of meritocracy, individualism, rugged individualism as Americans. And it was always a mentor, a sponsor, a coach, an advocate, somebody that I didn't even know sometimes was chirping in someone's ear and saying, hey, you should consider Julie for that opportunity, or Julie would be great to lead this session with your team. I remember one impactful, probably the most impactful moment for me was my last stint in corporate. I had a leader, JT, that I remember him pulling me into his office, which is always kind of nerve wracking. And he said, Julie, I think you'd be a great facilitator here on our team. And I said, no, because I'm thinking like it's only old white dudes that do that, right? Like there's no way someone like me could do it. And it's just kind of that mirror moment, somebody that puts up that mirror and is like, hey, I see this. Do you not see it yet? And that's really what allies do is they hold the mirror for us to see things inside of ourselves that we need to see that we can't see just because of our own lack of self-awareness, or just as women, we kind of get in our heads sometimes. Historically marginalized groups have to cover so much. They're so used to minimizing parts of themselves. So for an ally to step in and be like, no, you got this, like you're good, is hugely validating. And honestly, that was like what a moment with JT was like the trajectory really for me starting my own business, for me doing a lot of allyship work. And so I'm just thankful for all the allies that I've had along the way.
I love it. I love it. So let's talk about your forthcoming book, your seventh book, which is amazing. So what was the motivation around writing this book?
Yeah, I mean, it really came honestly on the heels of the election. I saw the voting data and I thought, there's an opportunity here, right? Like there's a key demographic that doesn't seem to be receiving this work. And, you and I see it all the time with our corporate clients, the people that come, the people that don't, to trainings, meetings, and programs, it's kind of the same people. And it's not usually the people with power. And so I just went on a curiosity tour. I interviewed over 50 people, thought leaders like us, but also people in corporate roles that were leading inclusion or allyship programs, and really asked them, like, what does it take for this to work? What does it take to engage people with power in these decisions and be a part of the inclusive environment? And that was the journey, almost a year ago now, and now it's really putting the pieces of the puzzle together for people. People really struggle. Like, my biggest learning in the book was, like, there's still so much fear, and just a lack of recognition of the power that we all have personally, as well as systemically. And so I know that's something in your work too. It's individual actions are really important, but systemic actions in our work are even more important. And so when we can have more allies in positions of power, that structural systemic piece starts to unlock much more easily.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So first off, just want to acknowledge you started this in November and you're getting it out now.
Yeah,
That's
well,
that's like impressively fast.
I appreciate that. It's honestly, it's the longest book I've written. There were a lot of like 5 a.m. writing sessions. It just felt necessary. It felt so important to write about this. It wasn't a book that I wanted to write. Like, originally when I set out to write it, it was rewriting my book about men as allies. And I quickly realized it wasn't necessarily about men, it was about a whole bunch of other issues. And so it just felt necessary, and I felt compelled to write it. And I'm glad, honestly, because like the last few months have been, I think, challenging for a lot of us DEI practitioners, right? We're feeling it in our businesses and our cash flow. And so I'm really thankful I wrote it from a place of still like a lot of optimism, and I still have that optimism. Don't get me wrong. Um, but we've seen kind of the fallout now, and whether it's a pendulum moment, whether it's I think we've kind of broken the pendulum, and whatever's new is going to look totally different. But I just thought I have to be a part of this conversation. I can't sit and just watch. I got to do something.
Yeah. It's funny like how sometimes a book sort of just like flows out of you where like some people it's taking them 5 or 10 years to write it and there's so many layers in the publishing process and I like you self-publish and I love how it takes out so much of the red tape and the timelines and all that. I just got my book back from the proofer yesterday, so I have time on Wednesday to go through it again and finalize the final edits, which is really exciting.
It is. It's so exciting when you flip through the pages. There's something about holding that physical copy in your hands, and how yours flips on the cover is really clever too. And so it's fun to see those ideas come to fruition. But yeah, I agree. I published with publishers before, and I just haven't had the marketing support. Like, the ROI just wasn't there. And the timing too. This wasn't the kind of topic I could wait another year to get to the finish line. And sadly, with mainstream publishers, it takes every bit of 18, 24 months to complete something. And then I find myself reading it, and it's like this research is already old.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Well, good on you for getting it out there at the moment when it needs to be out there the most. And you are launching it on International Allyship Day alongside the event that you're having in New York. And is this the third year you've done this? Second year you've done this?
second. Yeah.
Second. Okay. Okay. So, like, who's speaking there? Like, what's your goal for that event? Who should go?
Yeah, I appreciate you asking. Yes, August 8th is International Allyship Day. And as far as I'm aware, there's a few organizations that partner with it, but we're kind of leading the way with the signature event in New York City. But a lot of people are hosting virtual watch parties. So if you can't you can't travel, and I know summer's always a hard time, but August 8th is the official day. So I'm abiding by that. But all that to say, we have speakers from all sorts of corporate roles. We have someone from Deloitte, we have someone from UKG, we have somebody from um, REI. So just super exciting. And what we're really focused on is taking intentions to action. So the three kind of things that every speaker is going to talk about more in like a TED Talk roundtable kind of discussion format is, what's the research tell us? What stories, what's happening inside your organization that are really turning intention into impact? And then really leaving people with actionable takeaways. So we want to make sure all of our 8 sessions are kind of mini sessions that day over the course of 4 hours. that everybody has something tangible they can take away, that everybody has, at least one thing from the day. Maybe it's taking that research back to your organization. Maybe it's using some of the stories that were shared that day. Maybe it is like tangible action steps that you want to take back. But we're very, very centered on the fact that this isn't just a conversation. This isn't a pity party. This is a celebration, a true celebration of the work that's working and
Yeah,
learning from other leaders what's working for them.
yeah, absolutely. So let's get into this topic of power and allyship. And, you know, I think about some of the criticisms I've heard about allyship in the past, particularly that it upholds current power structures by acknowledging that one has more than the other. I have views on that, but I want to hear your take. And so, like, what do you talk about in your book when it comes to this intersection of power and allyship, and what is it important for people to know?
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. Well, I struggle with the same thing. The biggest feedback I get whenever I poll or ask people, what should we call people that are helpful towards people that are different from themselves, provide, support. And usually I get like nothing. They're just like a good human. It's like, all right, but we need language to accurately define those behaviors so it can be modeled for others. And so what I'm always looking for, whether we use the word ally, advocate, I have an umbrella term in the book where I talk about mentorship, sponsorship, advocacy, coaching, and challenging. So I think those are the main roles an ally plays. But it doesn't necessarily reinforce their power. To me, the concept in the book that really resonated with people was power with, not power over. So it's not I'm using my
Mhm.
power over you. It's not, hey, I'm going to invite you to the meeting and take all the credit. It's like, no, I'm going to invite you to the meeting and get the heck out of your way.
Yeah.
So there's a very like nuanced distinction between that, but what real allyship looks like. It's not it's leveraging the power, but it's not using the power. To reinforce the power. It's to share the power. And power shared, I think sometimes we get into the zero sum game. And that's definitely something I saw in the book that I win, you win, I lose kind of thing.
Mhm.
Allyship doesn't work like that. As human beings, like we're meant to help each other.
Yeah.
We know the happiest people on the planet from Harvard's research on happiness is people that have good relationships. Like, you want to be happier? Try working on allyship. Try working on your relationships. And so it really behooves you when you help other people. You know how good it feels to be helpful to somebody else. That's the sentiment that we're trying to create, not reinforcing the existing power that they have.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think about this research that explored why people choose not to be allies, and it wasn't because they're bigots or discriminatory. It wasn't because they were apathetic. It wasn't because were against allyship for whatever reason. It was the most commonly cited reason was it's not my place,
Yeah.
and
I'm
no
not
one
supposed to do that.
I'm not, that's not my place. That's not for me. I respect it. So I'm going to stay far away from it because it's not my
Mhm.
place. And so the anecdote to that is just actively inviting allies in. That's it. That's all it takes. Because what you just said about how people genuinely want to help others, they want to do good, but like people don't know how. I think especially nowadays when we're so disconnected with technology and we're not gathering in like communal places anymore like we did a few generations ago. And so like this need to help, but also the other side of that is this need to invite in. And I feel like with DEI in general, a lot of people felt very excluded over the last few years. And if we would have taken more of an allyship approach and inviting in approach to this work, I don't think we'd be in such a bad position that we are in right now.
Yeah, totally. Totally. And I saw it firsthand. As much as I talked about allies, it was women and people of color that generally showed up at training programs that I had, especially if they were
Mm,
optional. So that's a big problem with our work. That's why I strategically chose the title "We Want You." It's an invitation, like we want you. It's kind of a spin on Uncle Sam. It's more of a
yeah.
mosaic, not reinforcing that image. But it's we definitely want you. Like this, if you've been waiting for your invitation, here it is. Because you're right, 74%. HBR had a research study on white male leaders. It was a few years ago, but I'm sure it might be stronger now. 74% didn't think it was their place, to your point.
Yeah.
They didn't think this was for me. I'm not supposed to be at that inclusion conversation. Diversity is about people that are different, not me. when you have 70% of these folks in positions of power, that becomes a big math problem.
Yeah.
How do we engage them and change a culture when the people in position of power don't think that's the conversation that they should be a part of? But it is absolutely the conversation that they need to be a part of. And so there's this invitation, and I like you, I never want to put the ownership on historically marginalized groups to have to solve the problems they didn't create. But I do think, as a white woman, straight, able-bodied, all the things, so I have a lot of privilege in saying this. I do think an intentional invitation, or if you already have an ally in your life, just giving them that label. I informally developed a new mentor recently, and I call him my mentor. Like, did he call me his mentee? No, but I just started calling him my mentor, and that feels really good to me. It feels appropriate, reinforces the behavior that I hope he continues to give me because I'm getting a lot of really great advice. And so just finding nomenclature, like finding intentional invitations to bring allies in, can lower the awkwardness for the other party too.
Yeah. Yeah. And in your research for the book, what did you find as like other reasons that allies don't get involved? Like, what are some of those motivations? Or on the other side, like, what is motivating people to get involved? Because,
Yeah.
I feel like so much of this is just the hitting the on button, right? Like, how do we turn on the ally on button?
Mhm. I know. Like, let's get off pause and hit start already. Yeah, I mean, it was the first 3 chapters of the book. One's about fears, and so we talked about some of those, but the one we didn't talk about was status threat, you know? When we have status, we kinda we don't wanna we wanna keep it. It's
Yeah.
hard to give some of it up. You don't really have to give it up, like we said, it's a shared power. The fear of irrelevance, like, if I promote all these women or these people from historically marginalized groups, different cultures, like, I'm gonna be less relevant. I'm betting against myself, like, several men told me that. And then, all risk, no reward. Like we said, like, I'm
Mm,
gonna go in, I'm gonna make the mistake, I'm gonna say the thing, and they're gonna be like, "Ah, gotcha." Like, no one's looking for gotcha moments. If you bumble and stumble, which you absolutely will, I do quite frequently, hopefully you have that vulnerability with somebody or that empathy that people would just say, "Hey, I don't know if you meant it this way, but, like, you may wanna think of a different way to approach that next time," or like, "What did you mean when you said that?" Most people will be very forgiving with you. But you're right, those were the fears. And then I wrote about power and how to understand your sources of power because a lot of people have misunderstandings. Like, I don't have any power. I'm like, you have a C in your title. Like, are you kidding me? Or like when you say things, have you noticed how people pay attention? It's kind of walking people through their sources of power. And then the third chapter is the with them. So just to your point, what's in it for me? And that is how we are wired as human beings. We are selfish creatures. We want to protect ourselves and survive. So you've got to have a strong with them. Like, what is bringing you to this conversation? What's compelling? And it's not, family members. That's an easy gateway. Important. It is certainly one for me. But think a little more deeply. Like, how would this help your career? Like, what if there are more allies at your organization? Like, what would that look like for you, for your team? Like, what if you could build more trust and manage conflict better on your team? Like, wouldn't you sleep better at night? Like, these
mm,
are the types of things that are genuine benefits of allyship that we need to talk about more. Because, like many words that get thrown around, get misunderstood.
yeah.
We know with DEI, I didn't not use DEI as an acronym in the book because it's obviously been very questioned this year. But research shows when you use the words diversity, equity, and inclusion, people are very receptive to it. When you use DEI, they're like, I don't know. Words matter. How we
Right.
talk about our work matters, which seems really silly, but we are.
Words matter. So, for those out there watching, whether they themselves are people in power or what I would call the partner, the person benefiting from allyship and wanting to bring a person of power in as their ally, what recommendations would you have to start this work?
Yeah. Well, I hope you will pick up a copy of We Want You, as well as Victoria's book. And lean on these things. What I think we need right now is people to have more courage over cowardice. I
Mm,
need you to show up with a little bit more courage. I don't need you to save the day. I don't need you to be a savior. That's not what an ally is. But if you find this message compelling, grab there are great books, not just our books. There's great books out there. There are great tools that can guide you through this. Pair up with somebody. So what I'm encouraging people to do right now when I have live training programs or work with a client is look around the Zoom room, look around the physical room. Like, who could be somebody that could be your accountability partner? Who could be an ally for you? Who are high potential people in the organization you could benefit, they could benefit from allyship, whether it's you or someone else. I just kind of do a scan and then just start practicing. So, like, what I think has really struggled with our DEI work is that this stuff has been academic, it's been very like in your face, and people don't know what to do. They literally just get stunned, and so they don't do anything. So, like,
Mm-hmm.
just do one thing, like just one thing. And it we know when you have an accountability partner, someone inside your organization that's checking in with you, that you're helping and they're helping you, your chances of success are much greater. And
Yeah.
so one of the tools I walk through in the second two sections of the book is about team actions and organizational actions, is having a plan. Like, people, when you have a plan, you win. Like, research shows like a 2x difference. If you don't know where you're going, how are you going to get there? So have a plan, engage an ally, and just do the first thing. Take the first step.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on today and sharing your allyship expertise with us, Julie. So, if someone wanted to get the book, where should they go?
Yeah, you can just go over to our website, nextpivotpoint.com. We actually have a free downloadable workbook there, and a whole bunch of the research is actually on that page. So just look for nextpivotpoint.com, and the book will pop right up on the homepage.
Wonderful. Well, thank you again for joining us, and thanks for all you do.